Ratanpur was a small, quiet village resting between the gentle hills and dusty plains of central India. It was a place where life moved slowly, where people rose with the sun, worked until dusk, and gathered around lanterns at night to tell stories. Handed down for generations, the village had only a few rows of mud houses, a single well at the center, and fields that stretched into the distance like golden cloth when the crops were ready for harvest. Nearly every house had a neem tree standing nearby, offering shade during the scorching afternoons. But behind all its calm charm lay something else, something whispered, never spoken loudly. A legend, a fear. The villagers believed that the surrounding forest, dense and ancient, belonged to a spirit they called Bhutni, a ghost of a woman wronged long ago. Some swore they heard her cries in the middle of the night. Others claimed to have seen a shadow drifting among the trees. Even the bravest woodcutters avoided entering the forest after sunset. And above all, mothers always warned their children never to wander too far. But Mira, a 14-year-old girl from the village, was not like everyone else. Mira had always been different, curious, bold, and filled with a hunger to understand the unknown. She would climb the tallest trees, swim across the river currents, and wander into the outskirts of the forest without blinking an eye. People admired her spirit, but also worried for her. Her grandmother often said, "Courage is a blessing, beta, but it is also a fire. Hold it carefully, or it will burn more than it will light." Mira always smiled, thinking the warning was simply an old woman's superstition. She believed that fear existed only until you faced it. But even Mira had one thing that made her uneasy: the stories of the Bhutni. Whenever villagers described the ghost, their expressions changed. Their voices turned hushed. Some said the Bhutni walked barefoot, her anklets echoing faintly even when there was no wind. Others claimed she had long uncombed hair hiding her face, and white eyes glowing through the darkness. Despite these terrifying descriptions, Mira sensed that there was something more to the story, something hidden beneath layers of fear and misunderstanding. She always wondered, what if there's truth the villagers are afraid to see? One night, the moon rose full and bright over Ratanpur, shining like a silver coin in the sky. The air was crisp, and quiet wrapped the village like a blanket. Mira stood outside her house, holding a small lantern. The warm glow flickered across her face as she stared at the forest's edge. Dark and silent, her heart fluttered not with fear, but with anticipation. The legend pulled her like a magnet. Tonight, she whispered to herself, "I'm going to see the truth." She didn't tell her family. They would never allow it. Instead, she wrapped her shawl tightly around her shoulders and slipped past the sleeping village. The forest greeted her with a cool breeze that rustled through the leaves like soft whispers. The path beneath her feet was uneven, covered in fallen leaves and roots that twisted like sleeping serpents. But she walked forward, her lantern swinging gently in her hand. The deeper she went, the more alive the forest felt. Crickets chirped, owls hooted from higher branches. A faint scent of jasmine drifted through the air, unexpected in the wild woods. Sometimes she thought she heard footsteps behind her. But when she turned, she saw nothing except shifting shadows, cast by the moonlight. Every step seemed to ask her, "Are you sure?" And every time, she answered silently, yes. Mira had always believed that the world hid truths behind stories, and she was determined to find them. After walking for nearly an hour, she came upon a clearing. The moon poured its pale light across the open ground, illuminating a broken stone shrine half covered in vines. The air felt colder here, as though it belonged to another time. Mira stepped closer. Something about the place felt watched. Suddenly, a soft rustling sounded behind her. She turned and froze. There, emerging from the shadows between the trees, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. Her long hair flowed around her like a veil of night. Her pale face was half hidden, and her eyes glowed faintly, filled not with anger, but with sorrow. The villagers' stories echoed in Mira's mind, but instead of running, Mira looked closer. She saw the sadness first, the loneliness, the weight of years. Her fear slowly softened into something unexpected. Compassion. "Are you the Bhutni?" Mira whispered. The figure didn't answer at first. The wind seemed to pause, the forest holding its breath. Then, In a voice barely louder than the rustle of leaves, she spoke. I have been called that for many lifetimes. Her voice was fragile, almost human. Mera stepped forward, her lantern casting a warm glow around them. Why do you haunt this forest? The ghost lifted her face slightly. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. I seek justice. The Bhootni, as the villagers called her, told Mera her true name, Lata. She had once been a beautiful young woman in the same village, gentle, loving, and full of dreams, but her life had taken a tragic turn. Lata had fallen in love with a man who swore to marry her. He made promises under the sacred banyan tree, holding her hands as he vowed to protect her forever. But promises sometimes break faster than they are made. Lata's lover betrayed her for wealth and status, marrying the daughter of a powerful family instead. To hide his lies, he spread rumors accusing Lata of wrongdoing, staining her reputation. The villagers believed him. They shunned her, cast her out, and banished her to the forest. Betrayed and heartbroken, Lata died alone, her soul too pained to leave the world. Over time, people forgot her story. Fear replaced truth. Her name became twisted into legend. Lata became the Bhootni. When Mera heard this, her heart ached. They wronged you, she whispered. No one deserves such loneliness. Lata's eyes softened, a small flicker of hope rising after centuries of darkness. You listen without fear. Why? Because I can see you're not a monster, Mera said. You're a soul waiting to be understood. Mera felt her courage turning into a sense of responsibility. Tell me what you want. Tell me how I can help you. Lata took a step closer, her presence cold yet gentle. I want the truth to be known. I want the lies washed away. Only then can I rest. Mera nodded without hesitation. I'll help you. I promise. The ghost's form flickered, as if surprised by the sincerity of a young village girl. You are brave, Lata whispered. Brave enough to see beyond fear. For the next several nights, Mera returned to the forest, meeting Lata secretly. The two formed a unique bond, one living, one trapped between worlds. Lata showed Mera where she had lived, where she had cried, and where she had taken her last breath beneath an old banyan tree, whose roots had grown like protective arms around her resting place. Mera learned about the betrayal in vivid detail, the lies spun by Lata's lover, the cruelty of the villagers, and the silence of those who knew the truth but were too afraid to speak. Mera gathered names, clues, and old rumors. She questioned elders, visited forgotten records, and pieced together Lata's shattered stories slowly. The truth unfolded like a long-hidden scroll. When Mera finally revealed everything to the villagers, they reacted with disbelief at first. But evidence had a way of speaking louder than memory. Old letters, testimonies from aging witnesses, and details no child could invent began to open their eyes. The villagers realized they had condemned an innocent woman decades ago. They had allowed lies to destroy a life and create a ghost. Guilt washed over them. Prayers were offered. Apologies whispered into the wind. A shrine was built where Lata had died, honoring her not as a ghost to fear, but as a soul to remember. The forest, once filled with superstition, slowly felt lighter. One final night, Mera visited the forest with her lantern. Lata appeared under the moonlight, but this time her form was softer, warmer, almost glowing with relief. It is done, she whispered. You have given me what I sought for lifetimes. Mera felt tears in her eyes. You deserve justice. Lata smiled, a gentle, grateful smile that warmed the cold breeze around them. Your courage freed me. Slowly, her form lifted, shimmering, like mist rising toward the stars. The forest seemed to breathe in harmony. And then she was gone. The Bhootni was no more. Only Lata remained in the village's memory. News spread across Ratanpur. Mera, the girl once known for her boldness, was now known as the girl who befriended a ghost and brought peace to a forgotten soul. Children gathered around her to hear stories. Elders respected her wisdom. And the forest, once feared, became a place of calm. Even years later, when Mera grew older and traveled far beyond Ratanpur, she remembered that night, the night she met the Bhootni, and discovered that behind every legend lies a truth waiting to be seen. And she never forgot Lata. the woman who had become her unexpected friend. For Mira had learned one timeless truth. Sometimes the scariest stories are born from misunderstanding, and sometimes the bravest hearts are the ones that choose compassion over fear. Asterisk. Weeks passed after Lotta's spirit finally found peace. The villagers no longer whispered in fear when they passed the forest. For the first time in decades, the woods felt calm. Birds returned, nesting on branches that once felt heavy with silence. Even the air smelled fresher, free of the old fear that had haunted generations. Mira felt proud, not because she had become a local hero, but because she had helped someone forgotten by time. But something in her heart told her the story wasn't over. The forest held more secrets old, buried, waiting, and Lotta's final words echoed in her memory. Your courage freed me, but there are others still waiting. Asterisk. A few days later, Mira noticed strange things happening around the village. Crows circled the well at odd hours. The old banyan tree near the river shed leaves even though it wasn't the season. Children mentioned hearing footsteps behind them even in daylight. Goats refused to graze near the forest edge. The villagers grew uneasy again. It's nothing, Mira assured them. Lotta is gone. There's no danger. But deep inside, she knew nature never acted without reason. Asterisk. One evening, Mira went to the forest to gather firewood. She took her lantern. Though the sun was still visible, halfway into the woods, she heard it a soft crunch. A footstep. But not heavy like a person, not light like a deer. It was controlled, measured, careful. Mira stopped, her ears sharpened. Another step, then another. Is someone there? She called out. No answer, but she felt watched just like the night she first met Lotta. Her pulse quickened, not in fear, in recognition. Asterisk. As the sun dipped behind the trees, the forest darkened fast. Mira raised her lantern, its warm glow cutting through the blue shadows. The footsteps came again, this time from behind. She turned sharply. Nothing. But when she turned back toward the path, her breath froze. A tall figure stood ahead, half hidden, behind a tree. Not Lotta, not a ghost with pale eyes. This one looked different, darker, stronger. Silence clung around it like a cloak. Mira steadied her grip on the lantern. Who are you? She whispered. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. But Mira noticed something. Its outline was faint, as if not fully part of this world. Asterisk. Finally, the figure stepped into the lantern's glow. It was a spirit. But unlike Lotta's gentle sadness, this one carried anger, confusion, and pain that seemed centuries old. His eyes glowed a dim ember red. You freed the wandering one, he said in a deep, echoing voice. But the forest remembers others too. Mira swallowed hard. This spirit was nothing like Lotta, calm, sorrowful, human. This one felt ancient, primal, born of something much older than betrayal. Who are you? Mira asked again. The spirit tilted his head. Not who, what? I am a memory shaped by injustice, a guardian bound by forgotten wounds. His voice trembled the ground beneath Mira's feet. There are more like me, many more. Asterisk. The spirit pointed toward the deeper part of the forest, where the trees grew impossibly thick. That place holds the stories your people erased, souls trapped in their final echoes. Some cry for help, some cry for revenge, but all cry for release. Mira felt a chill. I thought Lotta was the only one, she whispered. The spirit's shadow passed over her lantern. She was only the beginning. A sharp wind blew through the trees as if responding to his words. Will you walk deeper? He asked. Will you hear the stories of the forgotten ones? Mira felt her heart race again. Fear, courage, curiosity. The same mixture she felt the night she met Lotta. I will, she said softly. Show me. The spirit's form flickered like a dying flame. Then follow the shadows. They remember everything. And with that, he dissolved into the air, leaving Mira alone with a path lit only by her lantern and the weight of an unfinished tale. Asterisk. As she stepped deeper into the forest, the darkness swallowed the last traces of the village. Behind her, the trees whispered again, not in fear, but in expectation. Mira realized she had stepped into something much larger than one ghost's tragedy. This was no longer just about Lotta. It was about every forgotten soul, every buried truth, every story swallowed by time. And Mira, The girl who once walked into the forest seeking answers was now chosen by the spirits themselves. Her journey had only just begun. Mira walked slowly, holding the lantern close to her chest. The deeper part of the forest felt different from anywhere she had ever explored. The air was heavier, as if soaked in memories. The ground was soft beneath her feet, covered with thick moss and fallen petals from unseen flowers. Every tree here seemed older, its bark twisted like aged skin, its branches bending like tired arms that had witnessed centuries of sorrow. Mira had stepped into a place untouched by time. The spirit she met earlier had disappeared, but the weight of his presence lingered. She felt a strange pull, as though invisible hands were guiding her forward. A question echoed in her mind. How many souls were trapped here? As she reached an open clearing. Her lantern flickered. A cold breeze brushed past her ear, carrying a whisper. "Help me." Mira turned. Sharply, nobody was there, but the voice came again, soft, trembling, afraid. "Please, someone, help." Her heartbeat quickened. This wasn't like Lotta's gentle sadness. This voice carried pure fear. Mira slowly walked toward a cluster of tall bamboo. The stalks swayed even though the wind had fallen still, and then she saw her, a young girl no older than 10, standing barefoot on the forest floor, her dress torn, her eyes wide with terror. Her form flickered like a weak flame. Mira gasped. "Another spirit." "Who are you?" Mira asked softly, kneeling down. The girl tried to speak, but choked on silence. Tears streamed down her translucent cheeks. "It hurts." The spirit whispered. "I'm still there. I never left." Mira felt cold dread. This wasn't a soul wandering. This one was trapped, still experiencing her final moments. The spirit extended a small trembling hand toward a dark patch of forest to the right. Mira followed her gaze. There, half hidden by roots and wild vines, stood the remains of an old, abandoned well, its stone rim broken and covered in moss. Mira's chest tightened. "What happened to you?" she asked. The girl swallowed, her voice quivering. "They pushed me," she whispered. Mira's breath froze. "Who?" Before she could answer, a sudden crack echoed from the trees. The ground beneath the girl shimmered. And then Mira witnessed something horrifying. The little spirit suddenly jerked backward, her arms flailing, her screams silent. She fell into the well, but before she reached the bottom, she flickered and reappeared again at the edge of the bamboo, repeating the same terrified plea, "Help me." Then the same invisible force dragged her. Then she fell again. Then she reappeared, over and over. A loop of pain, a cycle she couldn't escape. Mira's eyes filled with tears. "No child deserves this," she whispered. Before Mira could step closer, a gust of wind blew out her lantern, drowning her in darkness. A deep voice spoke behind her. "Do not touch what you do not understand." Mira turned. The red-eyed spirit from earlier stood before her, the shadows bending round him like obedient followers. "She's trapped," Mira cried. "Can't we help her?" The guardian spirit shook his head slowly. "You freed Lotta because her soul was held by grief and injustice. This child's soul is held by something much darker." "What?" Mira demanded. The guardian lowered his head. "Cruelty." He pointed at the broken well. "Long ago, during a drought, villagers accused the child of bringing misfortune. They believed her birth was cursed. Instead of protecting her, they abandoned their humanity." Mira's fists clenched. "They pushed her," she said, her voice quivering. The guardian nodded. "She died with fear in her heart. That fear keeps her trapped. She relives her final moment, unable to move on." Mira wiped her tears. "No soul should be left like that." The guardian's eyes softened slightly. "Your heart is strong, but you must understand, freeing a trapped soul requires great courage." "I'm ready," Mira said firmly. "You think you are," the guardian replied, "but to free her, you must step into her memory. You must feel what she felt, see what she saw, experience her last breath." Mira froze. This wasn't just about helping a spirit. It meant facing the darkest moment in someone else's life. No protection, no escape. The guardian spirit extended a hand toward her. "Once you step inside her memory, you may not come out unchanged. Pain leaves marks, even on the living." Mira inhaled deeply. Her courage had been tested before. She had walked into the forest alone. She had faced a ghost. She had freed Lotta. But this was different. This required entering a nightmare. The child's spirit appeared again, her tiny form shaking, her eyes pleading. Please, please, help me. Mira stepped forward. I'll do it. The guardian studied her, his gaze heavy. Very well. He placed his hand gently on her forehead. Brace yourself. The forest around Mira dissolved, trees melting into shadows, ground sinking into darkness. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She closed her eyes, and she fell. When Mira opened her eyes again, she wasn't in the forest. She was standing in bright sunlight. The village of decades ago, alive and bustling. Villagers murmured angrily. A crowd formed around a trembling little girl, the same spirit she had seen. Adults shouted accusations. The child cried, shaking her head, trying to explain herself. No, I didn't do anything, she sobbed. But nobody listened. Mira stood among them, but they couldn't see her. She was inside the memory, invisible, a witness. A group of men grabbed the child by her arms. Stop, Mira screamed. But her voice didn't exist here. The men dragged the child toward the forest, ignoring her cries. Women watched in fear, too afraid to intervene. The village head stood silent, sealing her fate with his cowardice. Mira's heart pounded. This is wrong, she whispered. So wrong, Mira followed helplessly as the men pushed the child to the well. The little girl cried, begging them not to hurt her. One of the men shouted, her shadow brings misfortune. The crops failed after her birth. She must be punished. The others nodded. Driven by madness and superstition, Mira's hands trembled as she watched the child cling to the edge of the well, trying not to fall. Please, don't, the girl cried. Mira reached out instinctively, even though she knew she couldn't touch anything. Please, someone, the child whispered. And then a man shoved her. The girl's face twisted in terror. She fell, her scream echoed. Mera screamed with her. The world shook. And then everything went silent. Mira opened her eyes back in the present forest. The guardian spirit was watching her. The child's spirit stood nearby, tears still falling. But something had changed. Mira stepped forward and kneeled beside the little girl. You're not alone, she whispered. The broken cycle started to mend. The forest's air warmed slightly. The child's trembling slowed. Mera gently held out her hands. It wasn't your fault. You did nothing wrong. You deserve peace. The girl's eyes shimmered. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and touched Mira's hands. The moment their fingers met, a warm light spread across the forest floor. The loop broke. The child smiled, a small, fragile smile, and her spirit dissolved into soft golden particles that floated upward into the sky. The air felt lighter. The forest breathed again. The guardian spirit stepped closer, his voice deeper than before. You have a rare spirit, Mira. Compassion is your strength. But beware, this forest holds many more stories, many more souls. Mira looked up at him, her courage unshaken. I'll help them, she said. He studied her carefully. You may not always be ready for what you will see. Some souls are gentle, some are vengeful, and some, he paused, are not spirits at all, but things older than humans. Mira felt a chill. What do you mean? The guardian's red eyes flickered. You have entered the forest of forgotten souls, but deeper still lies something else, something that awakens when the truth is disturbed. Mira's heart tightened. What is it? The guardian whispered one word. The Watcher. The trees rustled in fear at the name. Mira swallowed, her determination glowing brighter than her fear. Then show me. The guardian nodded slowly. Very well. Part of this story lies beyond human tragedy, beyond spirits, beyond memory. He extended his hand again. Are you ready to walk deeper? Mira took a slow, steady breath. Yes. The shadows moved, the forest darkened, and the next journey began.